The purpose of this video is to create a final map that you could print so that you have all the details that somebody picking up the map would understand completely what the map is trying to convey to them. So when we create a final map that could be printed or could be published online, we need to give it discrete information like a title, a legend, showing what direction the map is pointing with a north-south arrow situation, what the scale of the map is. Are we looking at 10 miles? Are we looking at 500 miles? So we need to know what the scale is. We also need to know a little bit about who produced the map. Was it produced by an outside agency? Was it produced in-house? So it needs to have a name, a title block that gives information about the person who created the map or was responsible for the map, so that you have a contact way of getting a hold of that individual if you need to. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to publish a map. It doesn't matter what the data on that map is that we're going to try to publish. All that matters is that we have a map with some information involved in it that we can create a legend out of. So we're going to create all these different parts that needs to be on a map as part of this video. So if you look at my computer screen, you can see I have a map that's got various different colors on it. And what this map is representing is the counties around metropolitan Louisville. And what I've plotted on the map is all the school districts of the counties that is around Louisville, Kentucky. And so you can see various different shades of color. We didn't label them, but if I started labeling all this information, it'd be too much information to label. But you can see each school district is a different color. I didn't try to change the ramp color so that we make sure that there's not two blue school districts touching next to each other. I just wanted to have a map that had some information that we want to convey to people. So that's what you have in front of you, is a map that has some information that we can convey. We have county boundaries here. I'm in black. There's two counties, one over in here and one up here, that we didn't put any information for. We just made those counties sort of square up the map. But they're not part of our study area, so we didn't put any information in those counties. If you look over here, I have other data I can add. So just to have one more data set, I'm going to turn on the railroads, and I'm going to change the railroad color to look like a railroad here in black. So we've got the railroads turned on. You can now see that the railroads are appearing, and they appear to look like a railroad. If you look at them real closer, we zoomed in. We do have this hatched mark on our railroads, so they do look right. And I guess I probably need to change my county boundaries so they stand out a little bit. I'm just going to double-click there, and I'm going to make them a little thicker, my county boundaries, and I'm going to make them red as a color and say OK. And now you can see my county standing out a little bit better for us. So that's the map we want to publish. Now, if I was actually publishing this as a map, why railroads and school districts on the same map, that necessarily doesn't make sense. But the purpose of this exercise is to show you how you go about publishing information, not worrying about what the content of the information is. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here under File, and I'm going to go to Page and Print Setup. You need to do this before you do anything else. We need to choose what printer are we going to print it to. So here's all the different printers I have available. I'm going to print it to my office printer, which is a color printer. Well, looking at this region, I'm going to just pull this dialog box out of the way. It looks like it's a little bit wider than it is tall. If it's a little bit wider than it is tall, what I want to do is I want to make it a landscape looking image. We'll have to make sure it fits on the page of paper in just a second. Make it landscape is one of the things that we want to do. And we want to scale the map proportionally. So if we change the vertical, that the horizontal changes proportionally with it, that we don't get the map to look skewed. So that's why we click this little box down here. I'm just going to print it on normal letter size paper. I could print it on that printer. I could go legal size, but legal size may not make good sense for where I want to use it with. I do have other printers available to me that could go bigger than this. But we're right now just going to print it on my color laser printer. And I'm going to say OK. So you don't see anything that's changed on the map yet. All we did was set up the page of paper a little bit on how we're going to print it. Next, I want to go under View, and I want to change to Layout View from Data View. Data View is what we use to build a map with. Layout View is when we're trying to get the map ready to print or publish. So now it actually shows me a piece of paper here, which is the dimensions 11 inches across, 8.5 inches tall. If you look, I now have a ruler above and a ruler to the side, and it's doing a regen of my map. Should be showing up in just a second. Okay, you can see our map. We've just done our page setup. There's no change to the map right now as you're looking at it, because we're in a view known as Data View. We're going to change to Layout View, which will show us what the printable map's going to look like. It'll actually bring up a page of paper for us. So there's the page of paper. There's where our map fits on the page of paper right now. And one of the things I want to do is make the map as big as I can get it to be. So we're going to try to pull the map up here and expand it, stretch it up. Remember, we told you to do it proportionally. I'm going to stretch both sides there. There's a little gray area which shows me the maximum size of my printer. So we've done a little bit of stretching of the map. It'll be printed proportionally. There we have our map. And it's occupying as much paper pretty much as I can get. Now we could extend this over the edge here a little bit, because if you look at it, you can see the map still has some white space above and below, so we're extending it a little bit over the edge. And that's not bad. So we've got our map pretty much in the center of the page of paper. Next we need to do is start adding some of this value important information to it. So some of this information that we need to do is we need to put a title on it. So we go under Insert, Title, and you cannot put a title on the map unless you're in Layout View. You cannot do it in Data View. So we're going to put a title on it. So this is Metro Louisville, Kentucky School Districts. Give it a name. It automatically centered it. We can change the font like you can in any word processor. We're not going to worry about changing the font here, but you can do any type of font change. So putting a title on is pretty easy. And again, if I want to change those properties, you just double click on the title and you can see the property window come up that we can change it to size. We can change the centering, left, right, all those kinds of things, just like if you were in a word processor. The next item I want to put on my map is I want to put a legend onto my map. So I'm going to go to Insert, and down here you see Legend. What do we want in the legend? Well, railroads are turned on, county boundaries are turned on, and school districts are turned on. That's going to be a lot of names to put on there, but we'll see if we can make this work. We'll say Next. Well, let's say how many columns we're on. Let's try to do this in 2 columns, maybe make it better. We'll say Next here. What title do you want for your legend? Legend's fine as a title. I'm going to say Next. We can change the border color and the background color and the drop-down shading and some stuff like that. But I'm going to use the defaults right now. And you can see the 3 layers here. I can change their names over in the Layers menu. I don't permanently change the names, but I can change the names to be more representative. Instead of having this underscore in their names and things like that, we can change the names if we would like. The sizes of all these different things, we have control over that. Again, I'm going to use the default, so I'm going to just say Finish. And there's my legend that it's building, or built for me. I'm going to move it over here. And you can see right now by looking at that legend, it's way, way too much information, because it's got every one of these school districts named, and they're taking up a large amount of space. So we can come back here and we can edit the properties of it. We can come in here and we can change the size and the position. So we can change the width. The width is almost 11 inches right now. Let me say if I make the width 3 inches. And see what happens. And say OK here. Now the legend's right down here. The size is OK. It may not be readable when I print it. It's going to be right at the edge of readability because I made it so small here. But we've got to be able to fit it into this page of paper somewhere without covering up the map. So we have only a very few places I can put the legend. I can put it over here. I could put it here. I could put it here. If I don't make it this small, my other option is reducing the information in the legend. So we have to do one or the other. One of the things in this layer, if you notice, everything came in capital letters. Well, that's the way the names of the school districts were placed into the shapefile when it was created. So right now I'm going to just keep it this really small size, but you can see that could be difficult to read. And maybe we can make it actually just a hair bigger. Let's see, we made it 3 inches. Let's make it 3.3 inches, and that'll give us a little bit better size. Not much change, but you can see there's a little bit better size there. So we've got a legend on it. Maybe not the best legend in the world, but again, these are things that you need to experiment with on how to make the legend better instead of just using all the default terms, and those are things for you to experiment with. The next item we need to put is a directional arrow. Again, we go to Insert, North Arrow, and it gives me a ton of different types of directional arrows to use. And there are some that you might like better than others, and you can see all the ones that are pre-programmed here. Some may be too fancy for what you're doing, others may be too bland for what you're doing. I'm going to use this one called North 7, and all you do is say, click on it and say OK. It puts it down here in my map, and then I need a location for this, and to me there's a nice empty spot. I might make it a little bit bigger, double click on here, and we can change the size of it. So the width is right now less than an inch. Let's make it 1.25 inches. 1.25 is the width, and say OK. And there it's a little bit bigger, and I'm just going to move it a little bit. I got some white space right there, so that looks like a good location for it. So we now have shown what's north and what's south on the map. We've got our directional arrow there. We've got a legend here. Again, it may be too small on the size we're going to print it. It would be perfectly fine if I was plotting it 18, 24, 20, 36 inches wide. But for 11 inches wide, that may be too small print. We've got a title up here. So the next thing we need to do is an insert, and we want to put in a scale bar. And again, the program gives us lots of choices of our scale bar. I sort of like this one, scale bar 2, with down here at the bottom, so I'm going to click on that and say OK. There's the scale bar. I'm going to put it, maybe down here under the middle of the map a little bit. But it's in decimal degrees, and I'm not used to measuring distances in decimal degrees. So I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to look at what we have. Well, there's where it says decimal degrees, units. I'm going to pull down here and say, what choices do I have? There's miles. That's what I'm used to using. So I'm going to say miles, and I'm going to say OK. And now notice it's miles. I can make it longer if I wanted to, or I can change its position. So I've got some things I can change here. But that looks like a reasonable spot for us, so we'll leave it there. The last thing that I must have in a map to make it a good map to utilize is I must have in the map a title block. So I'm going to go again to Insert, and this is called Text. So I'm going to insert text. It puts it right here in the middle of the map, if you notice. Well, that's not where I want my title box to be, obviously. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to try to drag it. If I can get it there. Try to move it. Oops, sorry, clicked on the wrong thing there. Doesn't want to let me drag it. Let's put some text in here. So we'll start with my name, make it a little bit bigger box so I can get a hold of it a little bit better. My name, we'll move it in a moment. There we go. So I hit enter. There it is. We'll edit in a moment. Sorry. There it is. I'm going to drag it out of the way. Now I'm going to double click on it and continue putting information. What else do I put in there? Well, I need to tell them what organization I'm with. So I'm with Jefferson Community and Technical College. I need to tell them what city I'm in. May not give them an address because the way I want to be contacted is by email. So I might not put what city I'm in. So Louisville, Kentucky. Maybe want to tell them what campus I'm on for the college. So let's insert Southwest and campus and hit return there. And then at the end I'm going to put my email address, vince.dinoto@kctcs.edu. So I've got all the information I want in the title box. I'm going to say OK. There it is. Normally I put my title box over here in the right hand corner. I'm going to double click on it. I can then edit. I can change the size and the position and the font size and some stuff like that. So I'm going to change my symbol here. I'm going to change to a different font face. I'm going to go to Times New Roman. There it is. I'm going to make my font a little bit bigger, 12-point font. So it's just a little bit larger to look at. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to say OK again. And you can see the font face has changed. I'm going to move it up just a little bit there. And now I have a title block in there. So I have the essential elements I need to have. The last thing I would do is then go and either print the map or save it as a PDF file or a picture file so that I can use it at other locations. The square here that you see is not going to appear when I print it. That is just showing the size of where the map is located. So we have a title, we have a legend, we have a scale, we have a name of who created the information, some information about that individual, and a directional arrow. And those are the essential parts that you need to have on a map before you make it as a publishable map so that other people can look at it and understand what's going on with the map.